That's as good a starting place as any. Is what's this? How do you say mounds, but only one?
A mound.
Is it
Well, in terms of the candy bar, I think the singular of mounds is mounds.
So you could have one mounds.
Yeah.
That just doesn't compute in my brain, though.
But isn't that what the candy's called, is mounds? Like Reese's, but
is
that's
it,
like apostrophe S.
Yeah, that's apostrophe S.
So that's different.
Is it? I don't actually remember what a mound is. I think when you said mounds, I was thinking of Milk Duds, but those are different.
Are you familiar with the Almond Joy?
Yeah.
Okay, mounds is an Almond Joy.
Yeah.
But with dark chocolate and no almond.
So it is a bar.
Yeah.
I thought it was like individual little like chocolate covered things. Yeah.
I mean it's like, but it has coconut. Mounds.
Isn't it like bumpy?
I mean, I don't know. I haven't had one since like 2007. It's like the coconut part of the Almond Joy. Just like imagine an Almond Joy.
Uh-huh.
Can you see it in your mind's eye?
I'm not that familiar with Almond Joy either.
It just looks like a chocolate.
Honestly, when you said, do you know Almond Joys? I lied. I don't really know what they look like.
Imagine a piece of chocolate.
Yeah.
With a little lump on top,
uh-huh.
which is an almond.
Okay.
That's what it looks like.
Okay, that's the answer to the question of what a mound is, or is it?
A mound looks the same, but without the mound of the almond on top.
Okay, so the general question was, it has mounds, plural, in it.
I think it does.
But no, you're saying it's smooth. It's not like an Almond Joy.
It's not. I mean, it is smooth. Yeah, it's not like an Almond Joy.
So why is this like someone's name?
Mounds?
Why is it? Dr. Jonathan Mounds. I don't know.
Sounds like
it's not. It doesn't have.
Anatomy.
I assumed it had like mounds in it.
Yeah, like hills.
Yeah,
and valleys. No,
the hills are alive to the
with
taste
the sound of mounds.
With the taste of mounds. Now the word doesn't mean anything.
It's not too hilly.
Well,
it's mostly smooth, but it is one large mound in of itself. So really, it should be called mound.
Aren't we all just mounds?
I am mounds. I am. Plural. I have mounds. I am mounds.
Give some nice mounds.
Cut that.
I don't even know if we'll use any of this.
It's fine. All right. It's probably for the best.
All right. On that note, welcome in to the inaugural. That was our first bit of content. Welcome into the first Park Pals podcast.
Park Pals.
Is that the
I'm working
song?
on the theme song.
Okay.
I'm workshopping.
Yeah, that's what the first episode is.
Yeah,
the first episode is just you workshopping the theme song.
It's a WIP. Work in progress. Whip, if you will.
We should have had less wine.
Probably.
What we're going to be talking about today is... this is not an intro. This podcast is already a mess. It's fine.
Welcome to the inaugural episode of Park Pals.
Park Pals. Hi, pal.
Hi, pal.
How you doing?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good.
Should we explain what this is?
No.
Okay.
We should just keep working on the theme song.
Park Pals. We're going to do a different genre of song every time.
Okay, good. Yeah, why don't you... do you have a concise explanation for what this is? I like that you led into that, and now I'm going to let you sink into it. What are we doing here?
I don't know. Well, we are two pals, and we love a theme park. And we like to go to theme parks. We like to ride rides. We like to eat food. We like to experience the ambiance and the entertainment. And so we, together... are going to tell you about our experiences in these theme parks. I'm not sure why you're laughing at this explanation.
Can you name 3 to 4 other examples of things we like to do at theme park?
I like to just vibe. You're there for the rides. I'm there for the vibes.
That's a good catchphrase for us.
Should I put it in the theme song?
Yeah, work that in.
Did I finish that explanation? We're just here to talk about theme parks.
Yeah.
What we like, new things happening in the world.
Yeah, we hope that you're either here for the rides or the vibes.
Maybe both.
Maybe both. I like both.
Me too.
So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about a thing that we got to do, which was an employee preview event of Super Nintendo World at Universal Universal Studios Hollywood. It's been open in Japan for a year now, something like that. But it's about to open on February 17th in Hollywood. We got to go early and check it out, so we'll kind of talk through our experience on that. But starting out, so that people have a little bit of context, so we've both been I feel like very enthusiastic. We've both been sort of theme park like
enthusiasts,
casual enthusiasts, you would say. Like, you know, there's different levels to things, so I don't think either of us are like the top 1% of the 1% of enthusiasts. But I sort of grow up on the Six Flags style theme park. My home park as a kid, for the majority of the time that I was a kid, was Carowinds, which is now a Cedar Fair park in Charlotte, and that is, you know, very Six Flags style, big park for roller coasters. Now it's developed into over time. You, on the other hand,
I am a Disneyland gal through and through.
Yeah.
I grew up going to Disneyland, which is why I love the vibes.
Yeah.
I did not go on any sort of intense roller coaster until I met you.
Pretty much.
Essentially.
I mean, you did like California Screamin' and Credit Coaster.
I'll do all the rides at Disneyland. But I was like, anything beyond that is just not for me. I didn't go on Tower of Terror until I was about 20.
Did you go on Mount Everest?
That one I did do.
Yeah.
Yes. That one I did do. But I didn't like any sort of upside down action. Corkscrews were a no.
Yeah.
None of that.
Anything fun?
Yeah. I like to have a nice time.
Okay, good.
I've grown a lot in my love of roller coasters.
Yeah, you do.
And my willingness to go on roller coasters.
To be fair, you go on most roller coasters these days when we go to new parks.
I do. I have come a long way. But grew up going to Disneyland. Love a Disney park. Love a dark ride. A little dinky themed ride.
Some would say that your favorite part of a theme park is, in fact, the theme.
That is correct.
Which is a great segue to talk about Super Nintendo World.
Great theme.
Because that park has a heck of a theme in it.
Whew.
We went about 2 weeks ago. The thing that I can say about it, I think the most impressive part is literally the moment that you walk in.
I completely agree.
The entrance is a green Mario pipe. They have a photo op outside, which is really cool. Which
you can take a picture of yourself popping out of a pipe.
Yeah.
Just like Mario.
When you go, there's separate exit and entrance pipes. So you probably want to get your photo at the beginning. Definitely. Before you go in the entrance. But you go through the pipe and then you come into a little room that is designed like the inside of Peach's castle. They have the painting from Mario 64, or a Mario 64 style painting that's like changing to different like areas of the Mushroom Kingdom that I wouldn't recommend doing it, but it looks like you could just jump straight into it.
But if we can back up for a second.
Okay.
Walking through the tube, there is just an array of rainbow lights around you.
It is very
as you
colorful.
Walk through into Peach's castle. And it is like truly you are being transported into the world of Mario.
Yeah.
And it is like absolutely mind-blowingly cool.
Best entrance
100%
to any themed area of a theme park that I've ever seen.
Yep.
I think the most comparable thing is the like Diagon Alley part of Universal Hollywood, where you walk in and you're totally enclosed in that area.
Yep. You know you are now transported into a different world.
Yeah.
Like it is like not like, oh, well, I'm, in Frontierland and I can see New Orleans Square from here.
Yeah.
It's like you cannot see what's inside of Super Nintendo World until you're in it.
And what's different about this than like any of the Harry Potter areas is even though Diagon Alley feels super enclosed, the entrance is like intentionally kind of like, it's supposed to feel like it's hidden. So you just kind of like walked around like a nondescript corner and all of a sudden it just opens up and you're in. Whereas this is like a you know, it's just such a
tunnel.
It really is like a transformative experience, not like you know,
emotionally, physically, spiritually.
It's all of those, but it's like transformative in terms of like you are outside the world and you go through the pipe and then you come out, and you go through the room that's Peach's castle, and then you come out the other end of the actual pipe and you're just surrounded by 100+ foot high walls that totally enclose the space.
You can't see any other part of the park.
Yeah.
You completely forget you are at Universal Studios, which I think the other lands don't do as good of a job at Universal Hollywood, at
not
least.
At Hollywood, not at all.
It's all very connected. The way the lot is just structured on a hill, it's like you can see everything from everywhere. But they did such a great job of being like, you are immersed in this world. Everything's moving. There's just stuff to look at it every which way.
Yeah. So you have these giant walls that close it in, and there's kind of different areas. So there's like a little ice part. There's kind of a desert theme. So kind of like different levels that you would have in Mario. And there's Goombas moving back and forth. There's a piranha plant going up and down. There's all kinds of like things that just, even though they're simple, they make it feel, I wouldn't say they make it feel alive necessarily. It's not like as like Galaxy's Edge in the Star Wars area of Disneyland and Disney World feels more alive in terms of being like a living, breathing, interactive thing. This is more like, because like looking at the Goomba that goes back and forth, it just goes back and forth. It doesn't like,
but it feels like the game.
It feels like a video game, and like a level of if you look at a level of Super Mario World, it's not the most like immersive thing. It definitely has more of the feel, like if you're into playing into Mario video games, they're going for the aesthetic of a 2D Mario game and trying to make that into real life, which is kind of interesting. It doesn't feel like Super Mario Odyssey or Mario 64, although it has elements from different games.
It feels very classic.
And they nail, it's like, how do you make something in a 3D world feel like a 2D video game? And they actually nail it extremely well, especially when it comes to the facades that you see when you walk in, because you just look and you're like, that the way it's layered is it's not flat.
No. It's
not boring in like a flat way, but it looks like a 2D Mario video game, but with enough depth to it. It's like the air, there's kind of an area where it would be so cool if you could actually climb to the top. You cannot, but
do not recommend. Do not try.
Do not try. If I was to climb up and kind of go through the kind of layered elements of it,
you'd look like Mario.
You'd look like Mario because you'd be running. You'd be running back and forth, and from the side, you'd look like you were running across a 2D thing. But it still has. So it's like it doesn't look stupid.
No, it looks
like if
awesome.
you like from that perspective. I'm trying to. It's hard to describe because like we'll put some pictures and videos and stuff up if you're watching the video version of this, but.
It also feels like a treasure hunt to me because every time I turned around, I would notice something else. Like, oh, there's this character or there's this and there's that. Like things are moving. You got your piranha plants that are moving back and forth. And it's like you turn the corner and then like there's Peach's castle in real life. And then you turn the corner and there's like a statue of Bowser. Like just so many things to look at.
It's overwhelming in a good way. Yeah. Because you come into it and your senses are totally overwhelmed to the point that you're not picking it apart going like, oh, that looks weird. It's like it's just like it's such a moment when you walk through of like, this looks crazy.
Like, I am now in a cartoon world.
Yeah. And the color scheme, it's a really, really aesthetically pleasing blend of flat colors, again looking like a 2D world, but not flat.
Yep.
It sounds stupid, but it's like it's like everything's rounded and obviously in 3 dimensions. Like the question blocks are not stickers on a wall.
Yeah.
The question blocks that you can go up and interact with are full 3D question blocks, but when you look at them from the side, they have the aesthetic quality of what it would look like in a 2D game. And it blends the two. And again, that's part of Mario. Mario has games in 2D and 3D, and they do in the way that, again, everything's designed and colored and placed. It does a perfect job of blending, feeling like 3D escalation of something that's originally designed in 2D.
Yeah. You really feel like you're part of it. And it's like walking straight into the game and being like a game piece, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is so fun because, like you said, there are so many elements that you can interact with, like the question blocks. You literally can walk up underneath a question block and punch it.
And it
interacts.
Yeah, it lights up like you're getting coins.
Yes, it's like a theme park where all of the elements that aren't the ride, everything that you'd normally just walk through and look at is gamified. And it's all like, what does this do? What does this do? Let me try this and see if something happens.
Which I think we'll get to that a little later with the power-up bands and stuff. Yes. It's not always great.
Correct.
They gamifying everything. Again, it sounds silly because it's based on a video game, but the way that they gamify and monetize that gamification is not the best. But going through, so it looks visually stunning. You look around and there's so many different things that it looks like to do. Mm-hmm. The first that everyone's going to care about is the ride.
Yes.
Mario Kart Bowser's Challenge is the name of the ride. We got a pretty interesting experience going on that. You had a friend who worked on the ride, worked on like the AV tech for the line, and the line is incredible.
It's one of the cutest and most entertaining queues I've seen. We were very fortunate and we got to bypass much of the standing in line doing nothing and waiting for the ride, but we still got to see the queue, and it's gorgeous. You walk from room to room to room and everything's a different theme. There are elements that are moving on screens. There are funny book covers to look at. It's just so detailed.
So the thing is, we got walked through the line, but that was almost a disappointment. No, it was very cool, and because we had a limited time window, it was nice to be able to get through the line, and we had someone who worked on it like pointing out like how some of the things were made and like look at these details and whatever. But we did not spend enough time in the line, and it's
a line I'd want to go back and wait.
It's a pretty amazing testament to okay, if you're gonna have to fill up, and it's gonna be a long way.
Buckle up.
I don't know how it's going to work yet, but they had signs up that made it seem like there was going to be a virtual queue. Mm-hmm. But I'm guessing even with some kind of virtual queue system, you're probably still going to have to wait for a while.
I will say also, I don't think we mentioned this in talking about the land itself, is it's really not very large.
No.
The just square footage of it is not huge. So the ride being the anchor point of this land, like there's the queue is long, but the land itself, like it's not very large.
No, but it doesn't feel small.
No.
To its credit, it feels big and expansive in the way that it has a lot of height to it, and the verticality makes it feel big, but the actual space, like you said, that you can walk around in is fairly small, but it's a pretty clever,
it's well designed
blending of like how to make something small feel big. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of how the line feels too, is like it's not the biggest building in the world that you're walking through, but it does feel expansive. It does feel like you're in Bowser's castle.
100%.
You're going through different rooms, you're seeing different elements. They kind of have 3D technology that's similar to the like 3DS, the screens where there will be like a fireball popping up and going back down in a Bowser's Castle-esque style is on a screen that has a slight 3D effect, which adds like cool kind of visual elements to that. There's just a lot of detail. There's like a whole room with like different books that are kind of like different nods to kind of little puns and things from the Mushroom Kingdom and different Mario things. Yeah, the line is great. I'm sure if you go, you'll spend a lot of time in it. Again, there was a lot of details that we probably missed by not spending as much time in there.
The good news is if you're waiting in line, there's plenty to look at.
There's plenty to look at. and I think a lot of things that you'll be able to go through multiple times and still be like, oh, on my fifth time, I just noticed this for the first time, which is always cool. Getting into the ride. So our experience, I didn't know very much about the ride. I had kind of intentionally avoided.
I knew absolutely nothing.
Some rides I will kind of have a good idea like what it looks like before going into it. Rides that are heavily themed, especially, I try not to watch ride videos and stuff if I know I'm going to go on it at some point. And so I had no idea what the specifics of the ride were. When you get into the pre-show room, it's
also spoiler alerts from this point on.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the ride in detail.
So if you don't want to know, go away.
But I will say before you go away, there's not really like spoilers. Like we're going to spoil how the ride goes and what it's like, but there's not like a story. It's not like Rise of the Resistance or something like that where you really need to go in blind to like totally experience it. The pre-show, you kind of walk into a room. You're kind of introduced into like what the ride mechanic is and everything. And at this point, I'm like starting to get a sense for what the ride is going to be, how it's going to function. I am obsessed with Mario Kart. I have played hundreds, if not thousands of hours of Mario Kart across the series.
Most of them just in Moo Moo Meadows.
Yeah. I have developed and I've raised multiple generations of cows in Moo Moo Meadows. Yeah. And so I will admit I let myself get overhyped because when they explain how the ride works, it sort of blows your mind.
Yeah. I mean, it's the idea of it is so appealing to people of our generation who grew up playing Mario Kart because it sets you up to say you are about to play Mario Kart in real life. This is how the ride works. Like you will be in a car, you are going to race. All of these fun things that you love about Mario Kart are happening now right in front of your eyes. Now, I personally think this room where you kind of get a sense of what the ride is spent so much time on the mechanics of the visor that you have to wear.
Yeah. That's the thing is the technology, the top line review of the ride is the technology is pretty amazing.
It is.
And its implementation is a little bit underwhelming.
Yes.
So when you get in the cart, they give you a helmet beforehand.
That looks like a Mario hat. It's so cute.
It's a little Mario hat. And it has a place that you get to attach this visor that is attached to the ride cart. And so the visor is a screen, basically an augmented reality screen. So you're just looking, it's clear. And you're looking at everything that you can see in the real world. But then as you start going through the ride, there are,
bananas.
Yeah.
And other items as well.
There are bananas, etc., etc.
But mostly bananas.
Yeah. So you get into, so you start seeing things on your visor that are not there, that are, projections. It's not a projector, but it looks like
it's a hallucination.
You get into they inject you with something.
You have a mental breakdown.
And you end up in a fever dream. As you get into a cart, you put on this visor, you have a wheel in front of you. And so they're explaining this in the queue, and it's like, you're going to have to steer. You're going to get shells, and you got to like shoot the other drivers, but don't shoot the people on your team. And it's like, this is crazy. This is cool. This is like the most advanced ride technology that any of us have ever seen.
And one of the coolest parts that I was like, okay, I have to keep this in mind while we're racing, because this is going to be really important, that the way that you shoot items like you do in Mario Kart is you literally move your head. You point your head to aim. So if I'm looking at you and I press the button on my steering wheel, it'll fly right towards you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the technology is so cool.
It's similar if you've ever been on Web Slingers, which is the one of the newest rides at Disneyland, the Spider-Man ride, the way they track your hands. I feel pretty similar to, I like this ride. I like the Mario Kart ride I think, a bit better than web slingers. But I feel similarly where I'm like, this technology is really cool. And you just kind of turned it into like a super chaotic, overly overstimulated shooting game instead of having to be like, let me actually like interact with this in an interesting way. So because once you get started, they're like, okay, you're gonna see enemies, you got to shoot them, you're gonna see prompts that are gonna be like turn right, turn left, and you're gonna get coins for all of this that you're doing, and the coins are basically a score. And we'll get into the whole scoring system and the power bands and all of that in a minute. But the problem with the ride is the way they hype it up in the pre-show, and just what my imagination started to do is I was like, this is going to be like Test Track at Disney World. This is going to be like the Cars ride at Disneyland.
We're going to race.
We're going to be going
the next
fast.
Like the car next to us.
Yeah.
We are
even if you're not racing the car next to you, I just felt like there was going to be
a fast
movement, and the way you turn the wheel was going to matter. And what it really turns into is more of like a slow paced, shooting game, essentially, where you have tons of shit. You don't get like 3 green shells throughout the thing. You get like 70 of them or something. So you have tons of shells. You're shooting constantly. There's different carts and enemies and things flying across your screen at all times. You do have to turn the cart at the right time, but it's really just like, if you turn it at the right time, you get more coins.
And it's not like you're going down the track and you're like, okay, a left turn is coming up. It just all of a sudden comes up with an arrow to turn left.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
It doesn't feel, and again, it's difficult because it's like there's 4 to a cart, so not everyone's turns individually are going to be like what actually turns the cart. And I don't really need it to be actually turning the wheel turns the cart. It never gave me the impression that like what I was doing mattered, other than getting arbitrary points.
Yeah. The other issue I had was, as I said, I think the instructional video spent 90% of the time showing you how to put on your visor.
Yeah.
And very little time telling you what was actually going to happen on the ride. So I didn't know who I was supposed to shoot at, what I was supposed to shoot at, really what was happening at all. So I was just kind of pointing my head and aiming at whatever I saw. I didn't know if it was friend or foe. I didn't know if it was gaining me points or not. I didn't know how many shells I had. I was just kind of going willy-nilly because I was really confused.
Yeah. So instead of getting through it and feeling like, man, I just went in a Mario Kart race, you're like, I just went through like a shooting game. A pretty good shooting game.
I still had a great time. We're making it sound like we hated it.
No.
I actually thought the ride was fun. I wish I had gotten to do it a second time to have some kind of idea of what was going on.
Yeah.
Because the first time I did not.
That's a great point, that you don't have enough sense of like what you're supposed to be doing. And if you ride it if you get to do it multiple times, then that's great. Now it's going to be, if you're local, if you have a season pass, whatever, that's awesome for you. If you come to Universal once and it's a 100-minute wait, you're probably not going to do it twice. So this might be a ride where actually watching, ride videos or something like that, being a little more prepped, might help you.
How would even a ride video work?
I would just thought about that as I said it. I have no idea. I guess if you hold your camera up like where your face would be,
I guess
you could.
I wonder if that would work
through the visor. I mean, it should.
Well, now we're gonna have to go on YouTube and find one.
I'm sure there's some kind of ride video because it's been in Japan for a while now. So, but that would be the main thing, is just trying to figure out the best sense of like what you're supposed to be shooting. I mean, if you don't really care about what your score, like, you don't have to really care about what your score is. It's not that important. But if you do, it can be a little bit. It's just chaotic. There's a lot happening on the screen.
I just wanted to feel like I was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I like to feel like I'm doing well at whatever task I'm trying. And I was just like, I don't know if this is working out for me.
It is so similar to Web Slingers, because it's like the problem that I have with Web Slingers is that at the beginning they show you like, okay, you can shoot things, and you can even like shoot a barrel and grab it and move your hand and throw it across the room. And and when you do that for the first time, it feels so satisfying. That ends up getting lost because there's 10,000 enemies on screen, and so just wildly flinging your hands for a score standpoint is way more effective than like being meticulous about like, let me grab this and throw it over here and I got to hit that specific thing. And so this ends up in a weird way feeling like the same thing, where it's like I'm not like driving like I am in Mario Kart, and then there's like one enemy in front of him, and if I like hit the enemy and then turn at the right time. Then I'm going to go right by him, and like my actions have consequences. That's a really hard thing to do in a ride, again, because you have to have multiple, like you can't have a single one person Mario Kart ride. Like it'd be too inefficient. So you're going to have multiple people, and not everybody's each individual action can like make your cart actually move. It just wouldn't work that way. But I think they could be better about simplifying and streamlining the experience to make it feel like I'm doing less, but it means a little bit more when I do it. And if I do it right, in a way that I don't think, again, to compare it to another ride, I don't think Smuggler's Run, the Millennium Falcon ride at Disneyland and Disney World, does it perfectly. But you do get a little bit better of a sense of like, if I do this right, especially if you're the pilots, that I will do better and have a better time and like be more successful.
I mean, that one, I feel like you get immediate feedback of like, well, if I go too far down, I will hit something and it'll bump as though you did, and you can then correct that. Whereas this, you're kind of like, I don't really know if anything I do matters.
It's an interesting dilemma, because part of the problem with Smuggler's Run is that your actions do have a lot of consequences if you're the pilot. And if you're any of the other roles, it's kind of boring.
Well, in terms of episode.
In terms of the interactivity, but in the way that it relates to this and why it's a difficult there's just an inherent difficulty in making rides that feel interactive, because how do you make them efficient enough to put a bunch of people in a cart but still make it feel like everybody's doing something? Yes. The Smuggler's Run version, and apologies if you've never been on this ride, but you get put into different positions within the cockpit. You have pilots, you have gunners, you have engineers. The pilots are literally controlling it. It feels like a video game. It's extremely fun. The other roles are pretty much just like pushing buttons at the right time.
Something lights up, you touch it.
Yeah. And it's not nearly as fun to
Does it do anything?
Sort of. So it's not nearly as fun to be the other roles. The flip side of that on Bowser's Challenge is that everyone has the same amount of like investment and control in this. Like everybody's got a steering wheel, everybody's got shells. So you're not dividing and conquering, but what that means is like 4 people all can't control the same cart. And so the downside to it is that you're not really actually in control, and you're not really having the same level of consequence. You're kind of just all like going through and shooting at stuff. That being said, the technology of the ride makes it so that if you just go in knowing that you're doing a shooting game, it's a really cool version of
very that. Cool. It's very cool. I mean, I've never seen anything like it in a ride, so it's very unique in that.
The like, oh whoa moment that I had is you can look down.
Oh yes.
And you can see, like a video game, there's like a heads up display sort of thing where you can't see it. It's not at the bottom of your visor, because it takes a minute to train your brain, because there's physical environment that you're going through. It's like if you just walked through where the ride is, it's designed like Bowser's Castle and there's physical elements.
Yeah.
But when you put on the visor, you still see all the things that you would see in real life, but
with animated characters.
There's characters, what overlaid. You're shooting. If you take the visor off and you start shooting, you wouldn't be able to see your turtle shells. You wouldn't be able to see any of the other carts. Like that's all basically like digitally imposed in front of your face on the visor. And you can move your head around. The visor is not a bubble. It's not 360 degrees. It's only a certain part of your face. So when you, like you were saying, the visor is your aiming. So if I look over here and shoot a shell, shoot it up in the air. If I look down, I'll shoot a shell down, left and right, whatever. But it also means where you actually look determines what you see.
Which I did not realize when we first got on the ride. There's a little sort of practice room where
we got stuck in.
We got stuck in for a like second. The ride backed up. But basically it's like, okay, now you can like point your head to aim at your targets. So I'm looking to the left and I'm shooting and I'm like, oh yeah, great. Okay, my targets are all to my left. And then I'm like, I don't see anything to my right. Okay, so I'm doing great. I'm doing great. And then I glance to the right. Oh my God, the targets are over there. So I'm thinking like, oh, they're just moving and I have to move my head accordingly. No. The targets are wherever your head is pointed. I could point it at the ceiling and it'd probably be there. Like it was.
It's incredibly immersive, but it's also, there's a little bit of a flaw in that the visor is probably not quite, it doesn't wrap around as far as it should, because in real life, if they were actually there in your peripherals,
it's a tough word.
It's a peripheral that you wear and you can see in your now I have to include at least some part of that intro in the video, because
I'm sorry.
You're like, now you're just whispering mounds, and if I cut it out, no one's gonna know what that means.
I'll give you a clean mounds. Ready? Room tone. Mounds.
That wasn't the problem.
It was too many mounds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it is cool. Like where you look, and if you're not looking in a certain place, you won't be able to see some of the things. When you look on the ride, when you look down, there's a little display that shows how many shells you have and how many coins you have, and you don't see it unless you look down, like it's actually a projection up from the cart.
Why would I ever look down? Somebody told me to. That's why I did it.
Yeah.
But I'm not like going through the ride and I'm like,
but that moment blew
it was very cool.
My freaking mind, because it's the most I've ever, by a huge stretch, the most I've ever felt like being in a video game in real life.
Yeah.
Other than we did once do a VR, like kind of a real life VR thing where you walk through space. We'll talk about that another time.
This legitimately felt like a video game in that, like, oh, how much ammo do I have?
Yeah, but it's not in VR.
No.
That's
the cool part.
That's the cool part of it. Is
the best part of it, because those headsets are stupid.
Yeah, the helmet thing, it's like a little awkward to wear, but it's not nearly as uncomfortable as a VR headset.
And it's so cute that it's worth being uncomfortable for 5 minutes.
And I wouldn't even call it uncomfortable.
It wasn't.
It's just like feels a little bit weird.
It's a little
in the
heavy.
way that it fit. Yeah, it's a little heavy. But again, lighter than a VR headset, and you're looking at real things in the real world, and the digital stuff is just layered on top. And the interaction of like looking in the right place to see the right thing is an incredibly immersive thing. And it makes me extremely excited, because this is the beta version of what a ride like this can be.
Yes. And
my concern, I was just gonna say, my concern is we didn't even wait in the line. We didn't wait in most of the line, and yet, again, this was a preview event. The ride wasn't fully open. They're testing. That's the point of the thing. Like, we weren't upset by getting like stuck in a few minutes, but we got stuck. We got stopped in the main like pre-show area for obviously much longer than it was intended. We got stopped on the ride in the practice area for a good maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we got stopped on the actual ride itself in the middle once or twice. Mm-hmm. I don't know how sturdy and viable having the visor attached to the ride, connecting to your helmet and all of that. I don't know. Maybe people who have worked or gone regularly in Japan can tell us how well the ride holds up in terms of like not breaking down. I mean, because if you get on the ride and your visor doesn't work, the ride's ruined.
Well, I will say, I think the design of that is very smart, because on other rides, you get a physical pair of 3D glasses, you put them on during the ride, and then you put them in a bucket on your way out. And they get scratched, they get really janky pretty easily. Whereas this, essentially, the visor portion of what you're wearing isn't going anywhere except for snapping on your visor and going back in the cart. So I think that was smart, because it doesn't have to be sanitized after every use. It doesn't have to like change hands every time that much.
It's not
just
moving and going on and off the ride.
Yes.
But where it differs from 3D glasses is 3D glasses don't really break. I mean, they can literally break, but if you put them on, you'll go, oh, my lens is broken. I need another one. That's very easy to see. If you get on the ride, you're wearing an electronic essentially on your face.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work, the entire ride is ruined.
That is true.
Now, there are individual carts that only hold a few people. So if one's broken, they can send it through. Like, I'm not saying it's like this ride is doomed to be a nightmare. After getting off of it, my first thought was, that was awesome. This technology is awesome. Boy, could I see it being in 2 years a huge problem where these things are broken all the time. And it either ruins your experience and you have to like ask them if you can go on a second time or whatever if your thing is broken, or it's just constantly holding up the line because somebody sits down, puts on the glasses, they're not turning on, whatever.
I mean, I would hope that they have thought this through.
They could be very durable.
Or just have like a bunch of extras you could plug right in.
It's so... The thing that scares me is it's so amazing of technology and works so well that I'm like, this can't be as durable as it needs to be. And it might be. I could be totally wrong. Yeah. It just makes me... That would be my long-term concern, because where I started to go with that thought is like, this is the beta, and this technology, augmented reality, having a clear screen that also projects images in it, is in a lot of ways the future of like interactive rides and really just like I don't know about roller coasters, but like dark rides and things in general, where okay, I can move through physical space and I can get virtual additions. Like, oh, we can put, you know, we could do Haunted Mansion-esque stuff where I don't need to redesign the entire thing to do a holiday theme.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
They could do...
it can be updated any time.
Yeah.
Easily.
If you can design new characters, new assets, whatever, there's just so much opportunity for what the blending of real world and digital elements within a ride can do. The only reason this wouldn't be the thing that like takes over and replaces 3D glasses and replaces all of that kind of stuff in rides is if it's not logistically feasible to keep running over the course of many years in a way that's sustainable. And so that's just a thing that we'll have to see, because like I said, this being the beta of like way cooler rides to come using this technology is one of the most excited for the future of theme park rides I maybe have ever been. Even though it wasn't the best ride, it was like a tech demo for what our ride's going to look like in 10 years.
Yeah. It's also cool to think about you can completely change the ride without any actual downtime for the ride.
You don't have to do physical...
change everything in screen overlaid of what physical props that you have on the ride.
But like if they want to add different carts, like you're racing mostly against like Bowser and like Roy and Iggy and some of the like enemies from
the main enemy of Mario, Roy.
I love Roy.
What's the other one that has a stupid name? Larry.
Yeah. Roy, Iggy, Larry.
Larry was your boss at Baskin Robbins when you were 16, and he sucks.
He was Mario's boss when he was 16.
Yeah.
But they could swap out and be like, now it's instead of being Bowser, it's like, oh, Wario's like takeover. And
there's a real lack of Wario representation, I will say. That was a major complaint. We're not done talking about this, but we'll get there.
I have a lot to say about Wario's representation. I was really looking for Waluigi merch, and
there wasn't enough.
It was sad. There was literally zero. So I bought a little Luigi hat instead.
It's close enough. Can we talk about the actual physical moving through the ride, like the track and everything, instead of just the technology? I feel like
it kind of sucks.
Well, for a Mario Kart ride, you do move. It's a cart on a track, and you are moving through space. The cart can spin.
That's what you could say about it. You do move.
You do move.
In theory.
For a game that is based around racing, I would have loved more movement. I feel like that was the one, like the the movement is fun when you like get hit by something and you're spinning and you know you're okay, now we have to turn left, now we have to turn right. Like that part is fun. I think the main thing that I was missing as we moved through the physical space of this ride was the race portion. I would have loved if at the end there was something where you can still see things on your screen in your visor, but like I also wanted to move fast.
Yeah, that's the thing,
like
is you never
a race where you're just like even like doing a small loop.
Yeah,
like that would have been such a fun and satisfying end to the ride.
There isn't a distinct lack of it feeling like a race.
Yes. Again, we're making it sound like we did not enjoy this ride. I had a nice time. I thought it was very cool.
It's fun.
And very fun. But
it's just didn't live up to what it could be.
What my mind thought it might be.
Yeah, what you think it might be and what something like this could be in the future. And part of this is just like, and we'll do maybe a more full Universal Hollywood. And
I got some things to say.
And like we could do a full park review in a separate episode. We'll do as more episodes come out, we'll do reviews of parks we've been to, upcoming news, like a lot of different formats I think we're gonna do in this.
They're literally just low on space.
They're low on space, but I also wonder how well the technology in terms of A, the durability, which we already talked about, but B, the like head tracking and stuff. Like if you're moving too fast, does it not catch up well enough? I don't know what the physical limitations of the AR.
It's a good point.
You know, the augmented reality experience part of it and all of that technology.
Sure.
If there's physical limitations of like, we couldn't go fast enough.
Yeah.
And still have this all work. There is a cool part at the end, again, spoilers. But there's a cool part at the end where you go through like a Rainbow Road section.
So fun.
And you do get a good like bit of feeling of that. You're still not going fast, but it is cool like environmentally. And you do kind of feel like you're surging to the end of the race. And that's definitely the best part of the ride. But not even just the speed that you're going. It's also just the way that enemies go by. Again, you don't feel like I'm chasing this person. I'm right behind them. We're going to catch them. We got to. No. It doesn't feel like a race. No. It feels like a game of laser tag.
Yeah, like
and
you
people are just going back and forth in front of you, and you're like, I think if you go into it with the mindset of like it's a Mario Kart themed shooting gallery game, I think you'll have a better time than if you go into it thinking like I'm gonna race. I'm gonna feel like I'm in Mario Kart in real life. Yeah. Like we still walked off and went, whoa, that was crazy. And that was cool.
Impressive. No matter if you are a Mario fan or not, just the ride itself, the technology is impressive.
For sure.
And it's cool. And it's fun. So it's definitely worth waiting in the line at least once.
Yeah, absolutely.
And going on. Also, we should probably say that is the only ride.
There is only one ride.
It's just the one. But another high point. Toadstool Cafe.
It's really cool.
I will say I was so okay. Again, he loves the rides. I love the vibes. Part of the vibes are food. It is some of the most themed theme park food I've ever had.
It's the most themed. It's the most well-themed restaurant I've ever been to in a theme park. Personally,
the inside is super cute, but more than that is all of the food has a theme. If you buy a burger, that burger comes with a hat and a mustache. It's so cute. You can get a caprese salad that looks like a piranha plant. Every single dessert is so meticulously made. There's a Princess Peach cupcake. There's I don't even know what it would be called. The little hill with the flag on it.
Oh, it's just a cake.
It's just a cake.
You mean like what?
You know that little hill with like the mound, if you will.
Mario, like what it's called in Mario. Oh, yeah. It's just I don't really know that has
a name. It's just like a piece of grass with a flag in it. That's like little Mario.
Well, it's the flag. It's the flagpole ending of a level.
Yeah.
So it has the flagpole.
I didn't know what to call the ground part.
Yeah, it has the ground that you would climb up to, and it's layered like you can see on the outside in the area and in the game.
It's
like
the ground, but it's a cake.
Yeah. When you look at it, you're like, oh, that looks like Mario.
Yes. Yes. So cute. And then the other dessert was question block, but it's a tiramisu with cookies on the outside with question marks printed on them. Like all of the food,
the desserts were easily the highlight.
Top notch. I mean, I truly don't know how they're going to crank out like all of that meticulously made food for as many guests as they're gonna get, but it's so cute. I actually thought the food was like,
it's fine,
decent. The desserts were the highlight.
Yeah, it's theme park food. Like they have a burger, a chicken sandwich, spaghetti and meatballs, a couple salads.
Yeah.
Menu wise, it's not anything crazy.
It's not anything.
Execution wise, it's fine. It's
but
not bad.
Aesthetic.
But the looks
10 out of 10
are good. The restaurant itself feels very cool and very themed. When you sit down, there are windows, but they're not to the outside. They're screens. And there's just like a living world of toads just kind of walking around doing things. And then the really cool another one of the really cool moments is you hear some thunder and the sky on the outside where the toads are starts to go dark, and you hear the music changes in the whole restaurant to what I immediately identified as the boss music from Super Mario Brothers 3.
Why do you know that?
Why do you not know that?
I don't know anything.
So Bowser music starts playing basically, and the environment just sort of changes. Like nothing crazy happens. Again, it's background elemental feel to it. It's not like a whole show starts playing or anything. And then that happens for a minute, and then it goes away and it goes back to the toads.
And like, if anything, do it for the gram. Food is so cute.
Yeah.
It's so aesthetic. Again, it's not going to be the most gourmet of meals that you eat, but
it's like the kind of thing that it's like, if I'm here and I'm hungry, I'm not going to be deterred because I think the food is bad, but I'm also not going to be like, every time I'm at Universal, I have to eat there because they have the best food. It's an amazing one-time thing, and it's good enough to go back to, but it's not like a highlight gourmet destination. The other than the ride and the restaurant, I think those are the two stand out like most significant things to do. Scattered throughout the rest of the land are little interactive games. So there's like question blocks, which are just, you can just walk up and hit them and they ding. And there's a whole system called power bands where you can interact with things. You can use the power band. It looks kind of like a
large watch almost.
Yeah, a watch, like a magic band or anything like that. And so you can like hit the coin blocks with it. You can scan it on the ride, and it keeps track of how many coins you got on the ride, which I think is very cool.
It's very cool.
They are 70?
No, they were only 40.
No, they're not.
They're not?
No.
Are you sure?
That was not right. Someone told us that, and that was wrong.
That was wrong?
Other people who were there, I know, we didn't buy one, but other people who were there did buy one. I believe they were either $70 or $80.
Oh, hell no. I thought 40 was too much.
I was like, 40 is a lot. And I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong. You could look it up and I'm sure they're not listed on the actual website, I don't think.
Oh, they're not. Okay, wait. Let's get a cut so you can cut this out. These bad boys are dollars. 40.
I'm not.
70. 80.
I'm not doing this much editing.
Okay. Take that all out.
We're just leaving that as it is. So whatever, they're expensive. They are cool. So how it works is there's a leaderboard. When you buy the power band, you're picking one of the characters. So Yoshi, Luigi, Mario, Peach, whoever. Peach. And your character correlates to what team you're on. And so throughout the day, however many coins you get, whether you're hitting question blocks or you're going on the ride or you're doing the other games, which we didn't buy a power band, so we didn't do any of the other games, and we really didn't have time in the preview that we were in. But there's like one where you're trying to like hit a POW block at the right time to like send something up. There's like one where you kind of have to like run around and like hit the different piranha plants at the right time, sort of thing. So there's like a few different interactive little games. And then there's a final challenge, which is Bowser Jr.'s Showdown. If you pass I believe 3 of the 4 smaller games, you collect keys, and then you can use those keys to get into the Bowser Jr.'s Showdown.
I didn't know any of this.
I didn't know any of this either. I read this after the fact. If this is not how it works, apologies. This is what it said on the website. But so there are different games, and you're getting coins and adding to your team's total. And so on the leaderboard, it's like Team Luigi has this many coins for the day, and it'll show individual people's leaderboards too. Cool. Like who got the most coins on the Mario Kart ride that day. And so that's all very cool, interactive, a great way to like just explore and have different things to do without needing like a bunch of rides. So putting what is essentially half the things, I mean, literally, because there's a ride, a restaurant, a store, a bunch of games, and then just you can walk around. Really, of like the set pieces in the land, one of them you get to do with your park ticket and not have to spend any more money, which is the ride.
Do you know if you can play the games if you don't have the band?
I don't think you can. That's, again, just we only went to a preview event.
We didn't get a chance
they
to
told people that if you don't have a power band, you can't do the games. I don't know if that's how it will be at launch, when it's fully open, but it's a cool thing. If you have the band, it expands what you can do a lot. The whole leaderboard system is cool, but like,
it's a really fun idea.
If you don't have
I'm poor,
the super expensive accessory, you can't even, you don't even show up like on the leaderboard for like the daily thing of how well you did on the ride. So you could have the high score of the day by far, and if you don't scan your little power band, you won't show up on the board outside. Yeah, it's one of the most egregious putting things that sort of feel like they should be core park elements behind a paywall.
Yes. And if you're going to charge that much for a band, I know it's tied to characters, which is tied to your team and all that stuff, but if you're going to go the Magic Band route, at least make it interact with something else, a different part of the park. You know what I mean? Like, for that much money, for it to do like 4 things seems a little unfair.
I don't mind that much, again, because it is an optional accessory.
Sure.
And so you do get a decent amount of things. Like there's 5 games, plus being able to record your score on the ride, plus just walking around. I think it does slightly more when you just hit like question blocks and stuff when you have a band than when you don't. So we'll call that 7 different things that you can do with the band. I think that's a pretty fair amount to get out of an accessory. I think the thing that's more annoying to me is that if you don't buy the band, you really are not getting anywhere near the full experience. It's not just like the Harry Potter version of this is like, oh, well, when you buy the wand, you get to like go do the little like interactive things. That's like such a minor part of the park.
There's so much,
and it's kind of lame. And like,
well, once you see it happen,
and once you see it once,
it does the same thing 1,000 times a day.
Yeah. And so that's like, it's almost the reverse, right? Where it's like, oh, cool, I bought the wand. It doesn't add that much to the interactivity of the Harry Potter parts of the park. The difference is a Harry Potter wand is a thing that people would want to buy, even if it did nothing in the park.
Yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
Before they added the RFID.
Yeah.
I bought one, and it was not cheap.
The fact that this is just like a weird watch that's not actually a watch, that does nothing except open up these interactive things.
At least have it give me the time.
Why can't a watch just be a watch?
What if they designed it like a large circle? What if it just flipped up like one of those watches that you used to get at Burger King, and told me the digital display? Yeah.
So whatever. If you want to pay $70, pay your $70 and get it. I almost did it, but by the time I realized that I kind of wanted it, we had already done the ride, and then we didn't really have enough time to do all the games. So I was like, maybe if I come back, I'll get one. Also, before we got on the ride, I was like, oh, I'm going to get a season pass and I'm going to be coming here all the time to do this ride because it's going to be the greatest ride ever made. And so I'm definitely going to want to have one of these power bands. Update.
We don't have season passes or the band.
Yeah, we did. I got off the ride and was like, that's a fun ride, but it's not the greatest theme park ride I've ever been on. It's not making me, we still might get season passes this year, but
for the butterbeer alone.
It's for butterbeer alone. It's not, the ride wasn't as good as I thought. And so the motivation to get the power band and come back and do it all the time was not as high as I thought. So we just didn't end up buying one. If you want to pay your $70 and get it, that's fine.
Again, we have no idea how much it costs.
But the lack of content for people who don't have the power band is where it's a bit lacking.
Yeah.
You go to Galaxy's Edge, and yes, to build a lightsaber, it's $200. And to build a droid, it's $100.
But it's so fun.
But those feel like less.
I'm gonna look up the price.
Things that other parks don't feel as like, if I don't have this, I'm totally missing out on like the point of this park existing. And it kind of feels like if you go and spend multiple hours in the Super Nintendo world and you don't have a power band, you're missing out on a lot of just foundational content of the band.
This just in.
What?
Bands cost $40.
40?
40. I thought 40 was a lot.
Were they gouging?
No,
people?
They were $40.
Someone who was there on the same day as us said that they paid $70 for it.
I feel like they were lying. It says 40 on the internet. And I don't know if you know this, but the internet never lies.
It never lies.
$40 plus tax. Tax is not that much extra.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to. Maybe they were gouging people at the preview. Was this
a reputable source?
No, it's someone that I work with.
No,
who's mostly
can't trust them.
Drug addicts.
You might want to cut that out.
That's fine. So whatever. No matter whether it's $40 or $70, all of the points still stand of, if you don't buy this extra unnecessarily expensive peripheral, you don't get the full experience of the land, which is it's disappointing. If it was like there's so much to do in there already and just having this was like a little extra thing and you can keep track of your score, that's fine. Again, the way the preview, just to give a caveat, the way the preview event was working might be different than how it is once the park opens. So maybe you can still do the games without having a band, and it's just a matter of keeping track of your score and contributing to the team element. And if that's the case, then that seems better. But if you literally can't do the games without the band, that feels like a disappointment, because
feels like a design flaw.
Pretty core to the thing. And it's not like other theme park midway games or whatever, where it's like I can pay $10 and play one game. I have to pay $40 and get the thing to do any of it. So the last thing I want to say is just or discuss is like, how do you think this adds to the park? Because I think it's cool. It's a cool land. It's an extremely unique land in terms of like theme park themed areas. Do you think this adds anything to Universal Studios Hollywood specifically that makes it like, is this now more of like a must do for any theme park person than it was before? Is it just like, if you go, it's an extra thing? Like, how do you think it adds to the like prestige of the park or the experience in general?
I think a couple things. I think that this will be a huge draw for a lot of people, because obviously Mario is hugely popular, has a huge fandom. I think it's going to bring in a lot of people. I'm not convinced that those will be repeat guests. I think a lot of people will flock to see it because it's a huge draw. It's something new. It brings a new entire franchise to Universal, which I think is really enticing to people. And I think people are going to want to experience the ride. I don't know if it's something like a Galaxy's Edge where people are going to go, that was the best thing I've ever experienced. I want to go back again and again and again. I do.
Can I tell you a secret?
Please tell me a secret.
I don't think Galaxy's Edge is all that re-goable.
We're going to have a serious chat later.
How many times have we been to Disneyland in the last 2 years and not stepped foot inside Galaxy's Edge?
That's
not
fair.
every time.
But Rise of the Resistance is...
Rise of the Resistance being the best theme park ride ever made.
Yes.
Changes that a bit.
Sure.
But how many times have we been in, and how many times, even if we've gone to Rise of the Resistance, have we not gone?
That's fair. That's
again,
fair.
It's not like I hate it and I don't think it's good and I don't want to go in there.
Yeah.
But it's not that dissimilar, I think, from the Mario themed thing in terms of it being like, cool, I saw it. And when I go to Universal, I'll go back to it probably to go on the ride and maybe get a mustache cheeseburger every now and again.
Hell yeah.
But I think it speaks to, as powerful as theming is for an experience, and like you said, these parks, you talk about Disneyland and the quote unquote unfavorable attendance mix. These parks are getting more and more, resort parks like these are getting more and more designed for people who come
often.
No.
Oh.
Not often.
Oh, that's true.
Because it's like, come see this really cool thing that is way impressive to see once, that opens up all this new merchandise, new food, new all the stuff that the people who come once were going to spend all their money on. Mm-hmm. But they could have probably spent the same amount of money and put in 3 rides without all of the really cool facades and the visual, aesthetic and the gamifying and the power bands and all that. They could have just put in a couple more rides. And from a revisitability standpoint, at least for me, that's cooler. And that's what I get. And that's why I bring up the Galaxy's Edge thing, because it's like, there's 2 rides there. One of them's great. One of them's good, fine. And like, yeah, the shops are cool. Seeing the Millennium Falcon's cool. Seeing a TIE fighter is cool. But like, when I go to Disneyland, we're going tomorrow. Am I like, hey, one of the things I really need to do today is I need to just go stare at the TIE fighter that I've already seen 10 times. No, I want to go do a ride. So, or go to a restaurant or whatever. So I just think it's interesting. I think you kind of nailed it when you're like, it's going to bring a lot of people in to see once. And that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to be a flashy, cool new thing. And they're not making the Universals and the Disneylands of the world are really not designing their new areas to be maximum. Like, you can come do this 100 times because it's just as much fun the 100th time as it is the first time. There are elements within there, again, like a Rise of the Resistance, an incredible ride, but even the design of that ride, I say it's my favorite theme park ride ever, and it is, but I've also said out loud while I've been there of like, I don't even like to do it every single time I go, because it's so magic and it's such an experience that if I did it 100 times, it would not be as good, because it's not, whereas like
Space Mountain,
Guardians of the Galaxy, Mission Breakout, like those rides are about the thrill and the fun, and like I can do it 10 times in a day and they're just as much fun the 10th time as they are the first time. And these things that are like themed interactive visual experiences are way cooler the first time, but don't have the same impact every single time you go. And I don't fault them for that, because I think that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to put wow factor on things that are going to bring people in once or every other year or whatever, however often people will travel to come see a theme park.
My other thought about like how it fits into the park overall, at least for me, is my biggest problem with Universal Hollywood is that not every ride, many of the rides are 3D rides, and they all start to feel the same. And I go on 2 of them and I say, that's enough 3D for the day for me. And then like, it's too much of like, if you go on the Simpsons ride, if you go like you even on the studio tour, you put your 3D glasses on several times to do the Fast and the Furious and the whole rigmarole. And it's just like it starts to feel like the same thing over and over again. And while you do put on some version of that, it feels different enough of a ride system to me that it's exciting to have at Universal. Like they do have some, they have the Mummy ride, which is a traditional roller coaster with some theming, and it's fast and it's fun and you're actually moving through space. But so many of their rides are 3D glasses based, where you're like, oh, I'm getting the sensation of moving, but I'm not actually moving. So at least this one feels a little bit different from that.
I want to throw a hypothetical out to you, since we talked about the technology of the ride and what could be possibly done with it.
Yeah.
Imagine a version of the world where instead of putting on 3D glasses to go on the studio tour and do a stupid King Kong thing, you have a visor that is an AR visor. And when you look around at the real life Universal Studios, you look to the left. Oh, there's stage 23. Here's a little pop-up list of all of the cool movies that have shot in stage 23. And all of a sudden you have like a MTV pop-up video thing that's like interacting with the real world that you're looking at. That is where the potential impact of the augmented reality part of this ride could be implemented in so many cool ways in a theme park.
I'm going to be honest though.
Yeah.
I don't want that on the studio tour.
You don't?
No. The reason... okay, so...
It's not replacing having a host and having a thing.
But I think part of the charm and the uniqueness of the studio tour is that you are in a real life movie studio. You are seeing where things are filmed on a daily basis, and I want to see the things in real life. No, and like part of the reason I am like annoyed by what the studio tour is now is that like I have to see Vin Diesel on a screen.
How dare you?
If he was really there, then that would be one thing. But I have to see him.
The Fast and Furious thing's terrible.
It's the stupidest thing of all time, and I'm just like, just show me.
But what I'm talking about is not. It's not replacing seeing the studio stuff in real life. It's enhancing it, getting more information about what you're looking at in a way that's like, when I look at this, it shows me an extra piece of information or something, or points something out about the thing I'm looking at.
Until they can make the headset a little bit lighter, I don't want to wear it for 45
probably
minutes.
Don't want to wear it for 45 minutes. Again, this is just an example.
Again, I think the idea is great.
The way that they've
studio
layered...
tour, not enough.
The way that they've layered 3D glasses into way too many things in this park that don't need it is a problem. Annoying. It is a huge flaw in the park in itself, in the ride lineup, in the experience. I have hope that the future of theme parks rides is much more augmented reality, and the way that can be additive to a real life experience than let me just stare at a screen in every single ride that I go on.
Yeah.
So that gives me hope that even in a park like Universal Hollywood, where there's just literally not enough space to put in like 10 roller coasters, they built a theme park attached to a functioning movie studio. Like
also in the middle of the city where there are noise ordinances.
Yeah. So yeah, there's just a lot of physical limitations to that park, and that's why they've leaned into 3D stuff so much, is because they're trying to add things that feel new and fresh and exciting, but also don't take up tons of space. And so again, augmented reality could be a path to making that a lot better. Like you're saying now, it is frustrating that the cool new thing is just another like version of like get in a cart and like kind of look at screens and shoot stuff.
It's so much better to me than a 3D.
Like, it's better than Transformers. It's better than, I like the Simpsons ride still, but it's like, that's still like a dated version of that. Is it better than Harry Potter?
It's just different.
Forbidden Journey.
It's just different.
The movement of Forbidden Journey through real space is a lot better.
I agree.
The digital implementation on Mario Kart is better than like just looking at the screens on Harry Potter and looking at Rupert Grint's like weird warped face as he's flying around. Because it's not his fault. He's just like, a lot of the visuals on that ride look bad.
It sounded like a real slam to me.
Oh no, that's saying they did him dirty by the way that ride is designed at times.
Sorry, Rupert.
He's doing fine. He's got a new movie. He's in that M. Night Shyamalan movie. Knock.
Really?
Yeah. Knock at the cabin
door.
Knock at the whatever.
Dave Bautista in a very small shirt.
He's knocking at your door. It's such a small. I bet it's a huge shirt, and he's just really big.
Tight. It's so tight. Looks like he can't breathe. The real question is, why hasn't Dave Bautista been in a Fast and Furious movie?
That is the real question. We're recording this on the day that the Fast 10 trailer came out.
That's perfect casting. He was made to be in one of those movies. We don't know
that he won't be in Furious X.
He's Rita Moreno's other son.
No, that's
Vin Diesel. That's who?
John Cena.
They're
brothers? Yeah. This is the sad part. I've
completely lost the
Universal has one of the greatest movie IPs in human history in Fast and Furious.
Back to the Future?
And Fast and Furious. And all they did is put in stupid Supercharged on the studio tour and a standalone ride in Orlando that sucks. And they haven't done, like, why is there not like a cool get in Dom's Charger ride and like fly around like a roller coaster, but in a car? And then go to space, and also it's a submarine.
Start as a racer, but then also somehow become a spy.
Yeah, and you become basically a superhero, and you go in the ocean. And
you should have died like 7,000 times, but you just don't because you're family.
Listen. Take us out. It's all about family. Family, you know who else are brothers?
Mario and Luigi.
It's all about family.
When you're here, you're family.
All right. That's enough.
I have to go to bed.
Yeah.
Thanks, pal.
Thank you, pal.